A single error could have ended Apollo 11. But one person had built a system that wouldn't break, no matter what went wrong. She wasn't in mission control. She wasn't an astronaut. She was the engineer who made the impossible reliable. Before the moon, before the term software engineering even existed, she wrote the code that saved Apollo 11. Her name was Margaret Hamilton, the woman who put man on the moon.
Margaret Hamilton was born in 1936 in Paoli, Indiana, and spent her early years in Michigan, surrounded by rolling fields and small-town life. She was endlessly curious, asking her parents how clocks, radios, and appliances worked. One evening, she carefully dismantled a small radio to see how it functioned, leaving her parents both amazed and slightly anxious. That moment planted a seed of exploration that would drive her to tackle challenges no one else had imagined. Margaret discovered a love for mathematics early, solving problems that confounded her classmates. Teachers noticed her sharp intellect and encouraged her to take on advanced studies and projects. Pages in her schoolbooks were filled with sketches of equations, arrows, and notes, as if she were mapping the universe with pencil lines. Margaret enrolled at the University of Michigan, immersing herself in advanced mathematics courses. She transferred to Earlham College seeking a smaller, more focused environment. She filled pages with diagrams and complex calculations, rearranging numbers like pieces of a puzzle until they fit. Solving a particularly tough problem made her jump from her chair, a burst of joy and triumph lighting her face. After graduation, Margaret taught mathematics, patiently explaining difficult concepts to her students. She discovered early computing, intrigued by the idea that machines could follow logic she provided. Hours passed as she experimented with programs, running calculations and watching results print from the console. At MIT, Margaret programmed simulations for Edward Lorenz, translating complex weather equations into machine code. Precision was critical, as even tiny errors could produce entirely wrong forecasts. She leaned over printouts, tracing streams of numbers that revealed hidden patterns in storm behavior. Margaret stepped into Lincoln Laboratory, surrounded by consoles and blinking panels that stretched as far as the eye could see. She coordinated tests on the SAGE and ANFSQ7 systems, correcting errors that could have triggered cascading failures. Watching the systems respond perfectly to her adjustments, she felt the weight of responsibility settle in. Margaret guided her team, helping colleagues break complex programming problems into smaller, solvable tasks. She designed small experiments to test code thoroughly, spotting subtle mistakes others overlooked. Her calm confidence made her a mentor, and engineers began relying on her insight. She illustrated program interactions on a large board with colorful markers, and everyone leaned in, captivated by her clarity and vision. Margaret studied a wall of simulation printouts, noting patterns and deficiencies no one else had seen. Connections emerged that hinted at entirely new ways to design software systems. In that instant, the possibility of putting humans on the moon seemed within reach, and a rush of exhilaration left her breathless, ready to transform the world. Margaret walked into MIT's instrumentation lab in the early 1960s, greeted by rows of consoles and engineers working on complex instruments. The nation was electrified by President Kennedy's challenge, put a man on the moon before the decade ended. Everyone in the lab knew the stakes were unprecedented, and every line of code could decide history. Margaret and her team began writing software for both the command module and lunar module, translating mission requirements into precise instructions. Every line of code had to account for fuel, navigation, and astronaut safety, leaving no room for error. She meticulously reviewed routines and algorithms, imagining how each sequence would operate in the vacuum of space. Margaret assumed leadership of the software engineering division, a group of talented but often anxious programmers. She organized daily briefings, establishing a culture of careful testing and accountability. Engineers slowly began trusting her methods, relying on her guidance for difficult debugging tasks. Margaret introduced the concept of priority scheduling, ensuring that the most critical tasks would run first even under heavy load. She implemented fault tolerance routines so the system could recover gracefully from unexpected errors. Countless hours were spent testing scenarios that could crash a spacecraft's guidance system. When her first simulation successfully handled simultaneous failures without losing crucial calculations, a quiet cheer broke out. One evening, Margaret's young daughter accidentally pressed keys near a terminal at home. When Margaret checked the system, she realized the input revealed a potential pre-launch selection bug. She immediately documented and corrected the issue, turning a domestic accident into a critical discovery. The lab was filled with nervous energy as simulations ran round the clock, testing the spacecraft's software under impossible conditions. Margaret watched graphs, error logs, and printouts, analyzing every anomaly. Engineers exchanged tense glances, knowing that any overlooked error could jeopardize the mission. Margaret coordinated with Mission Control, sending updates and reviewing integration tests that linked software to astronauts' controls. NASA officials demanded precise reports and instant feedback, heightening tension. Margaret felt the pressure like a physical weight, realizing that every decision now had national and human consequences, yet she thrived under the challenge. The lab held its collective breath as the first full system simulation ran from launch to lunar orbit. Every module executed flawlessly, with no critical errors or miscalculations. Engineers erupted into applause, some laughing, some wiping sweat from tense brows. Margaret's heart pounded with pride. She knew that the software they had built could truly carry humans to the moon, and the team's shared exhilaration signaled that history was about to be written. The lunar module. Eagle descended toward the moon's surface, every second loaded with uncertainty. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin gripped their controls, eyes scanning instruments and lunar terrain. Suddenly, alarms blared across Mission Control, 1201 then 1202 flashing on every console. Engineers and flight controllers froze, scanning telemetry and attempting to understand the unexpected overload. Armstrong's calm voice broke the tension. "We'll go for landing." Aldrin nodded, gripping the controls tighter as the module responded flawlessly. Mission Control cheered quietly at the first signs of success, realizing the software was handling the overload as intended. Back in Cambridge, Margaret and her team monitored every data stream from the lunar module. Numbers scrolled across printouts, graphs climbed and dipped, and every anomaly was examined in real time. The team leaned forward, eyes locked on screens, each confirming that the software was performing exactly as designed. Smiles began to appear, small nods of recognition exchanged as they realized their work had carried humans safely closer to history. As Eagle approached the surface, every second counted, measured in heartbeats as much as milliseconds. Controllers and engineers watched with bated breath as altitude and velocity numbers ticked down. Margaret's design ensured the guidance system continued flawlessly, each calculation prioritized perfectly. The pulse-like beeps of telemetry merged with imagined heartbeats, a tense rhythm that mirrored the entire world holding its breath. Eagle touched down on the moon, dust rising and instruments stabilizing in perfect harmony. Armstrong radioed, "Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed." Mission Control erupted in cheers and applause, some engineers hugging, others wiping tears from their eyes. Margaret sat back at her console, watching the telemetry confirm a flawless landing. The alarms, the tension, the hours of simulation had all been handled perfectly by her team's software. A quiet smile crossed her face as the magnitude of the achievement sank in. Her methods, her vision, had made history possible. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel unshakable pride, knowing that her work had directly guided humans to the moon. In 1986, Margaret founded Hamilton Technologies to formalize her ideas into practical tools. The Universal Systems Language and the 001 Tool Suite automated correctness checks, catching errors long before software ran. Colleagues marveled at how a single method could structure entire projects for safety and reliability. Watching her software compile complex systems flawlessly, she realized her vision was finally tangible in the real world. Margaret lectured at universities and presented at conferences worldwide, explaining principles she had pioneered at MIT. Students and engineers listened intently as she demonstrated formal methods in action. Questions flowed rapidly, and Margaret responded with clarity and enthusiasm, sparking curiosity in a new generation. In a male-dominated industry, Margaret often faced skepticism and doubt from peers. She balanced rigorous technical leadership with a personal life, breaking stereotypes along the way. Despite obstacles, she gained respect through precision, results, and integrity. Each challenge overcome felt like a small victory, proving that determination and skill could transcend bias. Margaret received the Augusta Ada Lovelace Award in 1986 for her pioneering work. NASA honored her with the Exceptional Space Act Award in 2003. In 2016, President Obama presented the Presidential Medal of Freedom, recognizing her contributions to the moon landing and software engineering. As she accepted these honors, Margaret reflected on decades of effort, knowing that recognition had finally matched the impact of her work. Her software practices became the foundation of modern fault-tolerant systems, from aerospace to medical devices. Engineers credited her for introducing systematic testing, priority scheduling, and formal verification. Today's mission-critical software owes much to her principles, proving that her innovations extended far beyond Apollo. Sitting in her office, surrounded by decades of notebooks, awards, and printouts, Margaret reflected on her journey from curious child to software pioneer. She thought of the moon landing, the countless engineers she had inspired, and the systems that now relied on her principles. She knew that her work would endure, shaping technology and inspiring generations long after her own lifetime, a legacy secured and immortal.